My name is Gary Royer. I've lived in Elkhart County all my life. Started off in Goshen, Middlebury, and now we're currently in Bristol, or currently over in Millersburg area. I am a small business owner, entrepreneur for the last 23 years. Been married 30 years, happily married for 20 years. And you will understand after you hear the stories. We have 4 children: Nicholas, Matthew, Andrew, and our miracle Hannah. How I was raised. I knew nothing of God until I met my wife. I went all the way through high school and nothing. So I was 18 years old. I come from a very abusive, mentally and physically, is my first 18 years. All I knew at 18 years old that I did not want my wife or kids to feel the way that we felt as kids and as my mom felt at that time. It was, like I said, a very abusive situations. Then I met Nancy. We started dating. And it got really serious probably within 6 months to a year. And then her dad asked me a question, I see you're getting serious with my daughter, so I'd like to see you in church. Church, I had no clue what church was. They invited me over for homemade pizza, what she's known for. And they bowed their heads to pray. You gotta remember, if you've never seen that, that is very weird. This man is talking to somebody I couldn't see. I was looking around because I was like, what am I missing? So it was so weird to me. We got done with dinner and we were sitting on the front porch, and that's when I literally said, what the heck was that? That's not what I said, but that's what I said. And that was probably a turning point of where she was coming from and where I was coming from. Because, like I said, I knew nothing of. All I knew that her house was different, and it wasn't the way it was at my house. It was totally different. So he invited me to church. Anything about American people? It was great until if there's a language barrier. This was a Spanish church. So I went because I wanted to see her, but then I started getting cold sweats. I started getting sweaty palms. I started crying. I didn't know why I was crying. And there was just a lot of emotion and working through. But then finally I got enough courage to go to her father and say, look, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. I need to go to somewhere where I can understand whatever's going on. So that was probably the start of, because then we started going to a church, and part of the accountability was we'd always meet for lunch, and what was discussed? What did you get out of it? So that went on, and the Holy Spirit was nudging, but when you're not a believer, you have no clue what's going on. So we got married, and I know everybody knows this, but there's 2 sides of everything. You're bringing 2 families together. There's 2 ways of doing things. There's 2 expectations. There's 2 ways of parenting. There's 2 ways of hanging the towels. There's 2 ways of closing the lids, washing dishes, everything. You get my point? Well, do that without Christ, and the end results are just crazy. So then we started having kids. Problems got bigger. They rised bigger. And Nick was 3, and we just had Matthew, and it was a Father's Day, and I can remember it just like it was just a few years ago. the preacher said, they do what you do, not what you say. And that was a curve for me because of everything that I've always said. I didn't say it on Sundays at church, but I said it on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. And my actions and what I was watching, if I did watch anything. I went to church on Sundays, but I always put on my Sunday's best. And then the hell was for the rest. Because I listened to the music, I talked the talk, I did the things because that's what I did. I honestly think a lot of men live this way. And I had to really look at myself, and I started changing in that aspect and what I was doing day by day. So fast forward a few more years, we had Andrew, and I was doing pretty good. I was starting to pray regularly. I was starting to still haven't missed church, but I was starting to be the person Monday through Friday. At least that's what Nancy thought. That's what the boys thought. That's what my parents thought. Everybody thought. I was geared up. I went on my first mission trip. We went to Haiti, and there was a team of 6 of us, and this was a 10-day trip. And we were involved in a hostage situation at gunpoint, and that probably literally changed me from there forward. I just didn't know it yet because I have been living a two-sided life, meaning my wife thought I was doing great. Everything was starting to plug in at home, but I was still living an adulterous life. That's one part of me that was at the end of my rope, and I just didn't give it all to God yet. So he had enough grace and mercy to ride with me until then, but this incident changed my life. I came home by his grace, his mercy, and that's when I jumped off the fence and I was all in. Because I realized that day, if he would have pulled that trigger, because it was pointed at us, we were lined up, and the gun basically was locked up. He pulled the trigger, it didn't go off. So I knew from then that I had to jump all in. So I got home, and I remember surrendering all. And I'm trying to think of the song, but it's basically, that's the song, because I went to church that following Sunday, and it's I Surrender All. And that's when I basically took the music to my heart, and I gave everything, and I told him everything. She still didn't know, but it's amazing of what God started to do in our business, with our kids, our relationship. I just can remember that time of just jumping all in. It wasn't one foot out. It wasn't living the two-sided life that my mom and dad thought about now, my wife and everything. It was me and Jesus, and basically living his way in every way, not behind closed door and out in the public. I think, you're going to church and you give your life to Christ, but you're always holding something, it seems like. And some people can say, oh, they drop it, and they dropped everything. That wasn't the case for me. It seems like I was always holding on. It took a sermon, and it broke me of music, and it broke me of television, and it broke me of this. And it took a sermon for breaking me of this, but then I always had a little bit more I was holding on to. And then it's a life and death situation to where you come to a realization, I would have literally been in hell. I was going to hell. I came to that conclusion there, right there in Haiti. I mean, literally. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. You really come to the conclusion, I will never see Nance again. I will never see Nick, Matt, Drew. I don't think I was saved 100%, because if I was, why was I doing it? So that's how I kind of viewed that situation. It's a tough situation, but I can honestly say, you know, that it's kind of like an alcoholic that's been delivered. I'm delivered of all sin, because it's all him, because all I did is surrender my mind, my heart, my life, and everything. He changed me from the inside out, because he already changed me from the outside appearance, from the wife, from the children, from the family. But to change you from the inside 100%, it took a life or death situation to where I have to be ready. If I go out on this highway and I'm broadside, I'm gone. Where I can't leave that 1 or 2 sins undone. You know, I have to be ready all time. In their eyes, I was doing everything right. But I would say on Nancy and I's relationship, I think we still had that struggle of all in. We had that struggle of being on the same page. Yes, I ran a business. Yes, I went to work. But maybe, just maybe, our business wouldn't flourish as much as it has, and gave us the freedom to do some of the things that we've done. But I don't know. I don't think we always said divorce is never an option, but I believe that she should be happy too. And would she be as happy as she is now? Would I be as happy and joyful as we are now? I number one, we probably wouldn't, because I'd still be holding on to that sin. But boys, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't even honestly think my boys know. So this will be an eye-opener, because I think they've heard a little bit of the stories, but they don't understand the whole story. So, yeah, and as far as my parents, I don't even think they know. My wife knows. She found out 2 or 3 years later. And there again, that was a God thing, because she was ready to take in. I think she built herself up. I worked on, from there, I started working on complimenting her more, serving her more, not just going to work and being I served her. She could tell that, man, there's more. But then, 3 years later, she started finding out that that's why there's more, because it's all in. I wasn't in when I went to Haiti, but when I came back from Haiti, I was different. And she didn't understand the big picture until a few years later, and that was God too, because, I obviously held on to a little bit. I wasn't sinning, but then I had to confess and bring it to her attention that this is what I've been doing. And I guess God gave her the grace, the forgiveness, the mercy, and nothing that she did. It was just, all me. It was 100% me. Nothing she did. And it's just the path but yeah, going through everything we went through, I've gotten down, it's a lot of it comes from your upbringing. And you got to work through how you work through every aspect of that. It doesn't matter the sin. It's every aspect. It always comes back to what you know, and what you don't know if you don't know. And when you do know, you flourish. His mercy, His grace. because when we screw up over and over and over, he has the unconditional love that he has for us. He sees the big picture. He knows the big picture, but he's having the patience and working us out to what he wants us to be. That way we can be used by him. And I hang on to, I got a list of verses that it was meaningful to me, but, he knows my name. I didn't look at that 30 years ago, but when I started looking at it 20 years ago, 18 years ago, he knows my name. And he had enough grace and mercy and to pull me out of what he pulled me out, and to pull me from the lifestyle that I was and how I grew up and all that, just to change me for the better. He knew before I knew. We just went through a book, Don't Let an Enemy a Seat at Your Table, which there again, we will probably be teaching that more, because if I would have known what I was dealing with 30 years ago, maybe I would have not had 8 years on the fence, 10 years on the fence in a life and death situation to know what that book can bring to you. Because, if a non-believer knows that I am a child of God, he knows my name, who can be against me? If he is for me, he is not against me. And my favorite one is Philippians 4:13 is, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I've started hanging on to that, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, when I really started digging in, because the enemy knows your every weakness. And we got the choice to make every day. Are we serving him? Or are we serving Christ? And just because we're serving Christ, if we don't stay on it, we can easily let the enemy a seat at our table. Easy.